that you really brought out was this idea of human rights.
Mm-hmm.
And not all the, let me put it this way, not that the ancients and moderns have noted that the God story and the equality story stand or fall together. That's what you said.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they do go together. And you wrote this: if we feel that life is sacred, that every human possesses an inviolable dignity and equality, and that no one deserves to be trampled down simply because they're smaller or weaker or poorer, then we are standing on a particularly biblical foundations. How so?
Because why should you protect the weak? Why should you accord to every single human life an equal moral dignity and worth? On what basis? Because when you measure different people, they will come up on whatever metric you have, they will come up with a different value. If I assess these two people, one of them will have more money than the other. One of them will be stronger than the other. One of them will be smarter than the other. And whatever metric you design, they will have a different value, right? They will, so what is the metric that you're putting above these two people that says they have the same value? And at that point, people might say, well, they're both human, aren't they? Well, it's interesting. Like Joseph Goebbels said, I do not deny that the Jew is also a human. Neither do I deny that neither do I deny that an insect is also an animal. What follows from the fact that two people are humans? And we say, oh, because they're humans, they have rights. No. Where does that come from? Where do these rights come from? And it's always the case that if people start questioning human rights, it's always because they identify that human rights have come to us from a particularly biblical foundation, that on page 1, male and female in God's image, they have an inviolable worth and dignity, not because of any properties within them, but because God has so dignified them from above. You need something from outside the system to value humans inside the system. Otherwise, we're just going to find systems within ourselves that will sort us out into higher and lower. You've got to have something outside the system that values each person with this moral dignity and worth. And there are lots of people. Jeremy Bentham called human rights nonsense on stilts. Yuval Noah Harari today, author of *Sapiens* and *Homo Deus*, and he doesn't believe in human rights. Why doesn't he believe in human rights? Because he's like, it's obvious. They just come to you from the Bible. If you don't believe the Bible, why would you believe in human rights? Peter Singer, he doesn't want to sign the UN Declaration of Human Rights. Why? Because it's a foundationally religious text, and he's not a religious person. He's an atheist. Of course, these things come from Christianity.
You quote Harari, and you said he wrote, "The struggle for survival is indifferent and viciously unequal. Human rights are as fictional as the God who underwrites them." I was like, whoa. How do we, though, help people to see this thread? Just because there is so much within this concept of human rights, this understanding of who we are as individuals, that we have imbibed it so much we don't even realize it until it's challenged. So this idea in that court case, do you remember the court case I'm talking about here?
So David Makareth was a GP, happens to be a Christian, and at one point in a selection process for a particular job, he was asked whether he would use the pronouns of somebody who presented themselves to him, and he said if they are a 50-year-old man with a beard and they want to be known as she, her, he wouldn't, because medically he needs to treat a person according to their biological sex. That has medical ramifications. He didn't get the job, and then he went to an employment tribunal. The judge in the employment tribunal said, David Makareth, you've cited a religious reason for your refusal to use those pronouns. You've cited Genesis chapter 1, but that view is not worthy of respect in a democratic society. And what's fascinating is that the very verse that he was quoting from, Genesis chapter 1, that male and female were made in God's image, is the very foundation for rights that the tribunal was meant to actually be assessing. And so it's very much a case of modern culture is sawing off the branch on which we're sitting. Absolutely.